There are no ships in the Strait of Hormuz. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So, for those of you who are new to the show, real quick, I am a former merchant mariner, meaning I sailed ships for a living. I also worked ashore in shipping. Came ashore, swallowed the anchor, became an academic, do maritime history and maritime policy. And been running this YouTube channel now for almost 5 years since Ever Given went sideways in the Suez. We have been following what has been happening here in the Strait of Hormuz for quite a while. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, head on over to YouTube, What's Going On with Shipping. You'll see that a lot of videos I've done recently are obviously focused on this. However, we do much broader commercial shipping, also some aspects of military and some history too. But today we want to talk specifically about why there are no ships in the Strait of Hormuz and why that's happening. Before we go forward, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. So I'm going to take you over to this graphic done by Marine Traffic. This is up on their X site. This shows you container ships as of 27 February through 4 March. The ones in red inside the Persian Gulf there are trapped. They are not coming out at this time. The ones in yellow outside are waiting to go in, and then the ones in blue are ships that have, quote, escaped. And so we did see some traffic come through. However, what you see here, as we get into March, fewer and fewer ships are coming through. And that's an indication, by the way, that the Strait of Hormuz has basically shut down traffic. In other words, we're not seeing the volume. Typically, you see somewhere in the range of 120 ships a day go through. On March 3rd, for example, we saw a grand total of 1 ship go through. So we're definitely seeing a drop. And the question is, why did that happen? It's not because the Iranians have closed the strait. Yes, they have said they closed the straits. They haven't closed the straits. Closing means the door is shut and ships can't go through. Ships decided not to go through. And the reason the ships decided not to go through is a very complicated one. I'm going to boil it down for you in as easy as I can. It's insurance. When you sail into a dangerous area, you have to get what's called additional protection or war risk insurance. The ships were paying war risk insurance. They were paying anywhere from 0.15 to 0.25 the value of the ship. Now, as of Monday, with a meeting done by the Joint War Committee, this is a group of insurers that come together, they have raised that rate to 1 to 3%. The reason they stopped sailing through is because there was not enough money in the insurance pool to pay out should there be catastrophic number of attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. So the insurance companies and their insurers, what are called reinsurers, sent out notice, we're canceling your policies. The insurers are the ship owners. And so the ship owners are the insurance companies, and they all realized if we sail through, we're just costing ourselves money. So they locked their ships in place. And what they did is they got new rates, anywhere from 1 to 3%. And since Monday, I have been talking to brokers throughout the world, and they are issuing new contracts. New war risk insurance is going out. What we're waiting for now is for the ships to pull the trigger and the owners to pull the trigger and begin sailing. And they're going to wait as long as they can until they think they need to go. And that has to do with a variety of different issues. In the meantime, we are seeing the Iranians conducting some attacks on commercial shipping. This report came out from the UK's maritime trade operations about an attack on a tanker off the coast of Kuwait. This video, and I apologize for the quality of it, it's a video of a video, is showing a small unmanned surface vessel. This is basically a remote-controlled vessel with an explosive on board steering itself into the port side of a tanker. And this is the resulting damage to the tanker. Now, you'll notice this tanker is light. It is all the way up out of the water. Normally, when it's loaded, the water line would be just under the red there. This unmanned surface vessel did was just punch a hole in the side, kind of a Wile E. Coyote view there of an explosion. This is the ship in question, the Senegal Namib. I apologize, my pronunciations are terrible. This is a Bahamian-flagged vessel that's located in the Persian Gulf. Crude oil tanker built in 2007, 19 years old, 158,000 tons, so basically a Suez Max. It's basically the maximum size of vessel that can go through the Suez Canal. An overall length of about 274 meters, so about 900 feet in length. Head over to Marine Traffic here. This is the position of the ship. It is located all the way up the Persian Gulf. It's actually in the large anchorage off of Iraq, just east of Kuwait. You can see its position here. So this is not far from Iran. Iran is right up here. So what they sent in was this unmanned surface vessel, basically a remote controlled boat. We've seen these being used extensively in the Red Sea, and they sent it right into the side. We also saw very similar type vessels being used by the Houthi in the Red Sea. The Houthi were being basically funded and given weaponry by the Iranians. So we're going to see very similar tactics being used here. Big question about why there wasn't any sort of defenses in and around the area by the Kuwaiti Navy, the Iraqi Navy, Saudi Navy. The U.S. Navy is what we're told is not largely in the Persian Gulf right now. Almost all the U.S. naval presence has been pulled out of the Gulf prior to the strikes. All right, I'm going to run marine traffic here in the background. This is the actual movement over the past 3 days, sped up for you, showing you traffic. Red dots and red triangles represent tankers. Dots are at anchor. Green are cargo ships. Light blue are tugs and smaller craft, also some government craft in and around the area. Take note, there is a large anchorage piling up with ships just outside the Strait of Hormuz, another one down here off Fujairah, and then loaded ships inside the Persian Gulf here waiting to get out. I want to read for you the reports that came in from the Joint Maritime Information Center. JITMIC, as it's known, is providing these assessments. So this is the latest JITMIC report as of March 4th. The regional risk level remains critical. It is at the highest level. Industry coordination and maritime security planning update. JITMIC acknowledges the recent public statements from U.S. leadership on 3 March. This is referring to the U.S. providing war risk insurance and providing escorts. I will note something here. The U.S. is saying they want to underwrite the insurance for the vessels in this region. They're also saying that they're going to provide escorts. I think both of these are difficult things for the U.S. to do. Number one, the liability issue for assuming the risk here is massive. This is a massive liability issue if the U.S. assumes the war risk. I think there's a way to do it where the U.S. can provide assistance, particularly for U.S. flag vessels. Same thing with escorts. Escorting is another issue. One of the things we've seen in the Red Sea was the U.S. was not really akin to want to provide a lot of escorts during that period of time. We come over here to the UK MTO's report as of yesterday. This is from March 3rd to March 4th, showing ship incidences. So number 10 involved a ship called the Gold Oak. This incident took place out in the Gulf of Oman. UK MTO received a report of an incident 7 nautical miles east of Fujairah. The master reported the vessel being struck by an unknown projectile. I showed that video in yesterday's video. The Libra Trader, UK MTO, received a report of an incident 10 miles east of Fujairah. Tanker experienced a loud blast and debris from an unknown projectile found on deck. The funnel of the tanker sustained minor damage, but no major damage observed. And then the Safine Prestige. This is a vessel that was right here, just south of the Strait of Hormuz at the time. Ship received an incident 2 nautical miles north of Oman, transiting eastbound in the strait. A container ship, very small container ship, I might add, being hit by an unknown projectile just above the waterline, causing a fire in the engine room. The crew had abandoned the vessel, and all crew are accounted for. And then the MSC Grace received an incident 20 nautical miles west of Dubai. Container ship had reported witnessing a splash from an unknown projectile. So that is the UK MTO's report. Heading back over here to the JITMIC report, we see these elements here. Confirmed known maritime infrastructure attacks. No confirmed large-scale Iranian missile attacks against Arabian Gulf or Gulf of Oman port infrastructure have been independently verified within the last 24 hours. Port and anchorage congestion risk. A high concentration of vessels is anticipated near the UAE, Oman, and Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, we just looked at that tanker getting hit off of Kuwait. These large anchorages do provide a bit of problems for defense. And I think that's going to be the continuing issue now to provide security for them. We have the breakdown on numbers here. So on 28 February, there were 98 ships that transited through the Strait of Hormuz, SOH there. 18 on 1 March, 7 on 2 March, and 1 that risked it on 3 March. Looking at the BAM, the Bab el Mandab, this is the strait between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. We see the number of transits increasing down there, although the Houthi have announced their potential for wanting to attack vessels in that region. We're still getting interference with global navigation systems and global positioning systems. So there's a lot of spoofing. This is false readings, interference in ships' positions. This is why you got to take AIS, which you're seeing over here, with marine traffic with kind of a grain of salt at times, because what we know is that ships' movements are being changed over time. They're asking for cross-checking GPS with radar ranges, visuals, validate the electronic charting systems with secondary navigation, increase your bridge manning, and treat anomalous VHF communications with care. The big issue here, as I mentioned to you before, is the war risk issue. The Joint War Committee expanded the listed area across the Arabian Gulf, Gulf of Oman. They've included new war risk areas all the way throughout the Persian Gulf and including the Red Sea, Djibouti, and additional areas. You're now expected to trigger voyage declarations and require additional protection, and that is being done. While no blanket cancellations of cover have been formally declared, insurance terms may act as a practical gating factor for transit decisions. That is exactly what we're seeing. Ships are going to wait. Right now, the situation within the Persian Gulf is this. As long as there's empty ships to fill up cargo from the terminals, they will keep filling them up. The problem is going to come is when there's too many empty ships, there's no empty ships left. They're going to have to run empty ships from the east through the Strait of Hormuz into the Gulf and start filling them up because they don't want to turn off production. The other element is as oil reserves start getting depleted, they're going to need to get ships out of the Gulf. 20% of global oil and LNG comes out of this area. That huge reservoir of full ships off of Singapore and Malaysia is being whittled down, and you're going to need to start bringing more ships in. Finally, here we get the outlook from the Joint Maritime Information Center. What they're saying is continued military presence and posturing. It can be expected. There are intermittent VHF interference and unofficial transit advisories. Sorry, I can't talk. Reduced commercial traffic volumes, insurance market tightening, and war-risking gating factors. The aerial threat from missiles and drones is expected to remain elevated, and the risk of collateral damage remains high. Specifically within the Strait of Hormuz, they note this: the maritime security situation in the strait continues to reflect critical kinetic risk following sustained military operations in the area down in the Bab el-Mandeb. Cheers. The situation remains substantial due to regional conflict with the risk of Houthi action in the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb. No vessel attacks have been identified. And then down in the Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea, the threat environment continues to reflect direct kinetic risk to commercial ships, including projectile and UAV incidents. So, I mean, there's just multiple issues going on, and there are no verified reports as of yet of strikes in the eastern Mediterranean, of UAV strikes in the Med, or mining or choke point denial activity. Now, this is by the Iranians in the area. We're going to talk about some issues outside there. Let's go over to our news stories and what we're seeing right now coming out. So this story here from G Captain Mike Schuller: Strait of Hormuz traffic grinds to a near halt as security threat remains critical. This is per that Joint Maritime Information Center report that I just read you. Again, Mike is a go-to on GCaptain. Again, there's a lot of information happening. I do a video about every morning, but if you want kind of updates as it goes on during the day, either follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, LinkedIn, or jump over here to GCaptain is what I strongly recommend. Mike also has a story on that tanker explosion that we just covered, so if you want some more detailed information, hop over to Lloyd's List. Trump's escort announcement met with skepticism as traffic trickles through the Strait of Hormuz. Industry awaits further details of Trump's plan to guarantee energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Again, the Trump administration put this out through a Truth Social that the insurance will be covered by the United States and we will start escorting. As I noted in yesterday's video, there are insufficient escort vessels to accomplish this mission. There are 8 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, 3 littoral combat ships in and around this region. There's nowhere near enough assets to do it. Yes, you don't need a physical ship riding alongside you, but you do need to set up ships at least at critical points along the way. You can use aerial assets, you can use land-based assets, but again, if you're going to escort, you're going to require ships into this area because of the threats from small drones, both aerial and surface. Two ship owners with tankers in the Middle East tell Lloyd's that escorts would not tempt them to send vessels through the strait. So we're going to be hearing this. One of the things that I want the mainstream kind of maritime news and the big news agencies doing is talking to the big oil companies that have tankers out there. Why are they not running their ships through? What is their reason? Get it specifically. If you have the insurance, what are you waiting on next? Ship escorts likely to begin only initial phase until hostilities pass and Iran's capabilities to attack vessel is degraded. Had a news briefing from Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, along with Admiral Cooper from Central Command. One of the things they're targeting now is the ability of the Iranians to strike out. It's one of the reasons why you see them targeting their Navy and their launchers. 4 vessels were tracked sailing through the strait on March 3rd, 2 with their AIS off. So I mentioned this story the other day. Iranian warship sunk by U.S. torpedo, participated in Indian drill. A lot of questions about this, why this ship was targeted and sunk. And a couple of things that I will note here. We do not know whether the United States perceive this ship to be a threat, either to the Abraham Lincoln Battle Group or potentially their land base down in Diego Garcia or other shipping. So the U.S. targeted the vessel. Now, the U.S. had been very open in their declaration that they were targeting the Iranian Navy. So this ship sailed from Sri Lanka out and into international waters. There's obviously going to be some question about why the U.S. decided to do this. You go back to the Falklands War. Great Britain established what was called a maritime exclusion zone around the Falkland Islands, and they said any ship that entered that zone would be sunk. They did sink the General Belgrano outside that zone. It created a huge stink for the Thatcher government at the time, but they said that the ship was skirting the zone, preparing to enter it and make an attack. The U.S. is going to have to deal with that also. Going to have to really explain why this ship was targeted and sunk. The Iranians at the same time should have to make an answer. Why did you send a frigate out into our corvette, out into the middle of the Indian Ocean when you knew the U.S. was shooting at everything flying an Iranian flag that was painted gray? We get this story from Bloomberg. France, Italy, and Greece to help ensure Red Sea shipping transit. So throughout the issue in the Red Sea, the European Union, through Operation Speeds, has been providing individual coverage for ships sailing through the area. So we typically get images like this with a French destroyer providing protection for a massive CMA CGM French container line vessel. And the French, the Italians, the Greeks were really protecting their assets as they sailed through. Individual escorts is what we're seeing, maybe 2, 3 vessels at a time sailing through. To do the Strait of Hormuz is going to be much more difficult. You're talking about 120 ships going through, and a question about whether you can provide escorts, but the French have announced they are deploying the Charles de Gaulle and its battle group down to the region. Charles de Gaulle is the nuclear aircraft carrier in the French Navy, but more importantly, their air defense destroyers, which they have a handful, are accompanying it, and that's what they're going to need down here. This is how we saw escort operations done for nearly 2 years in the Red Sea. We have this follow-up of the event that took place in the Mediterranean. The Ukrainians attacked a Russian liquefied natural gas tanker in the area. This story by Malt Humford. Russian Shadow Fleet LNG tankers reroute after blast sinks the Arctic Medagaz in the Mediterranean. Not surprised that vessel sank. I mean, the damage was catastrophic to it. Fortunately, the crew was able to get off and be saved. And like we don't have enough ship happening around the world, we get this story. Vessels carrying Ukrainian grain struck by drone in the Black Sea. Bulk carrier laden with corn was hit according to Ukrainian authorities. Vessel sustained damage and 1 crew member was reported injured before continuing its journey towards Romania. The Liberian flagged bull was bound for the Spanish port of Valencia via the Bosphorus when targeted. I mean, again, the idea of the world's oceans becoming the wild, wild west is getting a little bit crazy to me. But again, we've been watching this develop for quite a while. And what is that doing to ocean shipping rates? Well, you get this story here from Bloomberg over GCAP. U.S. to Asia oil shipping hits record $29 million as tanker rates explode. It's never been more expensive to ship crude from the United States to Asia, though some deals are starting to fall through already with rates sky high. The global energy industry has been rocked by widening Mideast fighting, with the impacts playing out in spiking oil prices. As of Wednesday, it cost just over $29 million to hire a supertanker to take 2 million barrels of crude from the U.S. Gulf Coast to China, the most on record according to the Baltic Exchange in London. That's more than double the cost from 2 weeks ago. The shipping rate is also equivalent to about $14.50 a barrel, which equates to almost 20% of the WTI West Texas Intermediate future prices, which was hovering around $75. That is going to cascade throughout the entire industry. I mean, every tanker is going to become more expensive because you're going to have to keep them in the trade you want and not pull them over to the other trade. Just to be clear, we are already seeing that Greek ship owners, in particularly, are fixing contracts for ships to sail through the Persian Gulf. They're already being done that. Contracts are being made. So even though we don't see ships sailing through, we are getting fixtures saying that this ship is going to go to this port, load, and come back out. And the cost for those fixtures are unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about a run from Fujairah outside the Persian Gulf into the Persian Gulf and back out for several $1,000,000. I mean, that is unheard of numbers we're talking about. Because again, owners are going to sit there and say, well, we're worried about the safety of the ship and crew. But when money is being dumped on you in buckets and you can swim around in it like Scrooge McDuck, this is what's going to push shipping companies to go. Believe me, this is what's going to do it. We have this story from Lloyd's List. Amid an increasingly chaotic world. That is the understatement again for the year with Lloyd's. Lloyd's will always give me the best quote of all times because they will underplay everything. An increasingly chaotic world. What is total chaos for you, Lloyd's? I want to know what total chaos is. It has to be global war for it to be chaotic. Container lines crave more ships. This story, let me be clear, this is written by Greg Miller over at Lloyd's, and I love Greg to death. But this story drives me crazy because I can pull you up story after story where the container lines are canceling voyages because they have too many ships. There's just too many ships. We're over capacity. We have way too many ships. Liner operators want more tonnage to take advantage of disruptions, even if they suffer multi-year losses, which are manageable due to COVID cash cushion. Okay, this is my image. I mean, I know I do this like in every video now where I just rub my face. I got it. But I can't tell you how hypocrisy of the container liners right now. I can't even do it. They are complaining about overcapacity. I mean, just way overcapacity. But they won't scrap anything. And then they complain when the rates drop because they got too many ships. And so they got to cancel voyages. And now they're sitting there saying, you know what? We could really use some more ships. I mean, again, they don't want anything bad to happen to the ships and the crews. I understand that. They really don't. They don't. However, chaos is money. And this is what we're seeing. There is supply overcapacity on paper. It's not on paper. It's on hulls. I can show you where all the ships are. There are way too many container ships. But the real measure is effective capacity, which takes disruptions into account, which is true. I mean, as you cause these disruptions, you do need more ships. If you can't go through the Red Sea, if you can't go through the Persian Gulf, you're going to need more ships. And that is exactly what is happening here. So that's our kind of recap for today. It's a lot, I know, but again, you don't get a lot of this granular depth on mainstream media. It's one of the utilities of YouTube. You can put together a half-hour video that gets you down into the roots. I will also recommend every story I show you, everything I do is down in the description of the video. So if you don't want to listen to me, you want to go read those stories, please do. Lloyd's has made a lot of those stories available to you. They're usually behind a paywall, but they've been doing great in making them available to you. Plus, I always recommend G-Captain. G-Captain's my go-to all the time. I think if you're not reading G-Captain right now, you're missing out on that. I will also toss you over to Splash 24/7, to Maritime Executives, to Sea Trade Maritime, to Trade Winds, to the Journal of Commerce. There's a list of them that you can follow. Some are behind paywalls, some are very expensive paywalls, and others are open for you to take a look at. And again, if you really want to know what's going on with shipping, then hey, there's a YouTube channel called what's going on with shipping right here by Sal Mercogliano. Go to this channel and he'll tell you what's going on to the best of his abilities. Although I will say that this is getting to be unbelievably ridiculous story on what we're waiting. I am waiting for that snap that's going to trigger those ships to go through the straits. And once that happens, get ready for the flood, because to be clear, disruption is bad. Resumption is equally bad, because once everything starts flowing, it's going to cause chaos down the system for oil, for refined products, for gas, liquefied natural and liquefied petroleum, for containers, for bulk carriers, you name it, man. It's going to be a mess. And get ready for that when it hits. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, give it a big thumbs up, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? Well, you can hit the super thanks button down below, or go on to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Be sure to share it with your friends. Put it out on social media. Let everybody know that this guy, Sal, has got this YouTube channel, and he is talking a shipload about ships. That's right. I slip that in there once in a while. Till the next episode, this is Sal. Sign off.